All right, so Goodreads put out cats. You are going to hook that comforter. I don't know why I buy nice things when you own a cat, because it just gets destroyed. Regardless, Goodreads put out a list of 66 horror books of the past 3 years. Yeah, so the best horror books of the past 3 years. And I strongly disagree with nearly every one in the top 10 that I've read because I either strongly disliked them, felt completely neutral. This was an average, kind of boring, if anything, overhyped read. And one specifically actively offends me on many levels. But here we go. So we're starting with the first one on this list. Let's see what comes up. Mexican Gothic. One of the few I actually think was a good time. Very atmospheric. You have a girl who gets a letter from a relative saying, hey, my new husband, the family that I just moved into and married into, yeah, they're trying to kill me. Please come help. So goes to this creepy manor. I love the atmosphere. The vibes are great. I would have preferred a more gut punch ending, but I did definitely enjoy this one. The main character is very enjoyable, a little bit narcissistic, full of herself, rich girl kind of thing, but so much fun. I love her. Her relationship, I think it was with her cousin, was very nice, and then the other characters of the house. Yeah, so this one I approve of. The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I like the title. The book I found was very boring. I didn't like the characters. This is so forgettable. I read this. When did I read this book? February of 2022. I remembered so little of it. I remember one pretty gross scene. The vampire of it, like a little bit of a unique take. It got very violent very quickly. I remember that. But the overall plot just dragged. And it's just like this woman and her book club. Woman is just like, I think this guy's a vampire. I think he's hurting kids. And no one believing her. People gaslighting her. Him doing terrible things. But I was just bored the entire time. And I really don't remember very much of this book. I rated it 3 stars because it was just the most average of average read. And then I did not write anything in my review. Like, I had nothing to say. Home Before Dark. Don't get me wrong. I love Riley Sagar. I do. And I know this is one of his more popular books, but this one really was not for me. I was bored the majority of this book. I say majority, but it's like 2 different stories smashed together. You had the modern day stuff where you had a girl, her father has just passed, and left her an estate which she's going to go to, fix it up, and then sell it. But then her mom's still alive and is just like, no, don't go to this place. Promise me you won't go there. Because when they were kids, or when she was a child and they were just younger, new into their marriage, I think they divorced in the later on. They had moved into this house and it was haunted, so they ran away, fled the house in the middle of the night, and Dad wrote a book about it going forward. That book has haunted her all her life. She's been bullied because of it, and she just wants to know what parts are true because she doesn't believe in ghosts, so she thinks that part is fake. And she goes to this house. The atmosphere is pretty good. You got some creepy occupants snooping around, but everything in modern day time, present day time, I was so bored with. I was so bored. And then the book within the book, so the story the father told that you presume is fictional, but maybe it's not. Maybe the house actually is haunted. I adored that. I adored it so much. I only want to read that book. I only want the book within the book. I don't want to read the actual story of modern day. It'd be something else if, I don't know, maybe she was doing investigations of the story. She was just boring. She was just a boring main character to follow. I think my favorite thing about this book, besides the book within the book, was the fact that the cover glowed in the dark. Hidden Pictures we're going to talk about last, because this is the one that I just despise, and I can't believe it won the Goodreads Choice Awards. So we're going to talk about it at the end. We're going to talk full spoilers, and you tell me if I'm crazy. Alright, Sunday Motel. I think I gave this a generous 2-star, and the only reason I got 2 stars is because there was one moment, one singular moment that made me feel genuine fear. And I'm just like, if I was in this book, I would have a heart attack in this precise scene. So that's why I got 2 stars instead of 1, because there was like one line. And I'm just going to remember that. Anywho, I hate this book. Despite that one line, I hate this book. You have parallel things happening, and I say that because it is the exact same story happening in present day and the past, and you are reading it twice. It is so repetitive. The characters, which is our present day, is like, I think, the niece of her aunt who went missing. So you have the aunt, you have the niece. Niece is going searching for the aunt, goes to a motel that the aunt disappeared probably a decade ago. And aunt is living her life. So if we read the chapter about the aunt doing the thing, then we read about a chapter about the niece learning that the aunt did a thing. They have the same voice. If it wasn't for the fact that I think their names are in the titles of each chapter, I wouldn't know which one we were in the perspective of, because they talk and sound the exact same. Bored out of my mind. Oh yeah, there's a haunted motel. Barely plays a role, but when it does, my god, it is terrifying. One line. I'm almost tempted to reread the book, or at least that chapter, for that line. I did like that line. All right, Stephen King's short stories, If It Bleeds. Okay, this is another one that worked for me. Now, I normally hate short stories. They very rarely work for me. I love this collection. So the first short story is Mr. Harling's phone, someone's phone. And, oh, it's a terrifying premise. It's super cool, and I love it. I want this to be a full-length novel, but I'm scared the premise would overstay its welcome. I need a slightly longer novella or something like that, because, oh my god. So, rich guy has a caretaker, kind of a guy who reads to him a lot and waters his plants and stuff like that. And now, rich guy dies, but the kid who was taking care of his plants and reading to him ends up putting his phone in his casket, because there's a whole thing about cell phones. It's fine. And then he's grief-stricken. He didn't really get a good chance to say goodbye, so he calls up the cell phone just to hear the voice answering machine, whatever. And then it just goes from there. It's like there's something reaching out to them beyond the grave. How is this phone holding its battery? And when he calls to rant about something that happened in his life, then tragedy will strike, but in the kid's favor. And I'm just like, oh god. Such a cool premise. I loved it. I really want more from that story. Can't attack the camera if it moved, I'm sorry. So next we have Life of Chuck, which just confused me, but I enjoyed being confused. So it's told in reverse chronological order. It's like, I think, 3 different parts. So we read the ending first, the middle part second, and the beginning third. And I just like that premise. You will just probably be confused. It's fine. I enjoyed being lost in my confusion, and we're just learning about the life of Chuck and his wonderful time and how respected he was at this bank. It's fine. If It Bleeds, I really hate it. Like, there was the title story of this short story collection. I think I gave it 2 stars. I did not like this one. Full disclosure, it's a continuation on, is it her name Holly? I don't know. There's a previous story that I probably should have read. I think it was The Outsider. And there was a shapeshifter involved, I think. And I did not like her, okay? I did not like her as a main character. She just honestly kind of came across as stupid for me. And I'm just like, why? You're blackmailing a shapeshifter, and yet you think it's appropriate to go home for family dinner and just stay there a while they are threatening other people you care about instead of rushing to your plan to trap it. Maybe I need to read The Outsider first. But then you had Rats. I loved Rats. Now, a story that involves an author writing a story can be very hit or miss for me, but when it hits, it hits, and it's fantastic. The cat's going to attack the camera again. So you had an author who's always wrote, like, short stories or novellas, and he wants to produce a full novel. And he goes to this isolated cabin, and I love isolation stories, and a storm hits, and he's trapped there. And then he finds a rat dying on his front step, and it goes from there. and you get like monkey paw kind of logic, make a deal with maybe a devil, I don't know how to describe it, for him to get this book up and running and on the go and making it popular. And then you have a death, and then it's just like, oh, I wish this was longer. I loved it. I loved it so much. So yeah, If It Bleeds, highly recommends. The majority of the stories in here. The Only Good Indians was, again, a little bit of a confusing read. I enjoyed it for the most part. There's a lot more basketball than I would expect. In this one, you had a group of friends who are native living on their land, and they hunt an elk or deer or something like that into like sacred land and end up killing the deer, and it results in a curse coming after them later down the line. And it does not go how I expect. The creature is very cool, this deer woman kind of thing. At one point, I think we're reading from their perspective. It has been 2 or 3 years since I read this one. I definitely enjoyed it. It was a little bit slow at times, but when the horror hit, it hit, and it was very well done. The monster is terrifying. The ending is so action-packed and fast-paced. I was very confused with how someone died that involved a car, and I'm just like, how physically weren't we here, and then now it's there. I don't know how one person just ended up dead, but it's fine. It's fine. I was in grad school. I was stressed. I probably wasn't paying as much attention as I should, but this one I do recommend. The Last House on Needless Street. I read this book so I could have read the top 10. What the hell did I read? It was ambitious. It was an ambitious story. I think I only gave it like 3 stars, but I definitely did enjoy it. You have a missing child. You have a possible serial killer, and you have a very religious cat. And at first, I'm just like, I don't want a talking cat in this story. The cat was the highlight of this story. Yes, Maven, thank you for making an appearance. Cat back there. So I wish I loved this more. There were moments that I'm like, this is idiotic. What the hell is happening? Then there were moments where I'm like, I love this. Oh, it was a little bit on the slow side, but this one, I'll give this 66 best books of the past 3 years this. I liked this one. It wasn't perfect. I don't know if it was over the top ridiculous, no way you could predict any of this and see it coming, or cliche, yeah, you probably could see this coming. I don't know. The plot was a little bit iffy for me. Slow at times, fast-paced at times, weird at times. You knew you were missing something, you knew something was off at times. It was ambitious. But I will give the book this. It is a unique read. I don't think I've read anything like it, and I definitely did enjoy it and would recommend. And I'm definitely going to read from this author again. How to Sell a Haunted House was fine. Again, another 3-star. It dragged a lot. I appreciate that it was broken down into sections, all listing like the stages of grief after you have a brother and sister, and their mother has just died along with their father in a tragic car accident, and they are going to take care of the estate, read their will, sell the house. You got a messed up sibling dynamic. They're not very close through trauma and everything that happened. There are a lot of creepy puppets. You have the golden child brother who I'm just like, I hate you so very much. The pure rage I felt to him at moments of this book, but then later on, I'm just like, okay, that's fair. You're justified. That's fine. I understand. Going into their history was great. I would have loved this book so much more if we focused more on the creepy puppets, probably more on some kind of curse, because I don't know what the hell's going on there, and more with the mother's history rather than the siblings. I like the siblings' history. We just dragged a lot. It was so slow paced in the middle, especially, that I just wanted to DNF the book. Beginning was good, ending was good, middle dragged. And if that middle section had been replaced with the history and lore of the puppets and the mother and what happened there, then it would have been better. And then you have The Year of the Witch. Everyone loved this book, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because I don't like YA. I don't know if was this marketed as YA? Yeah. Yeah, it was marketed as YA, and to me it read like it. Uh my bar for YA was how much hand holding does the author do? Is it taking your hand and saying these people are bad, these people are good, this is the theme, this is the message, I'm going to spell it out for you, or are you going to allow the reader to interpret these things for themselves and allow the characters to have like nuance and stuff like that? And I felt these people are the bad guys, these people are the good guys, this is clearly right, this is clearly wrong. And I did not like any of the characters. The romance in it was this is the lead female and lead male with the most page time of the same age, so clearly they have to get together. And then let's hint at a relationship between these two girls, but let's not actually do anything with it. And I don't know. Nothing but the plot stood out to me. It was really preachy. Oppression is bad. These religious zealots are bad. You shouldn't. I don't know. I felt like I was being preached to. I liked how the magic was set up. I liked the woods. I loved the ending. But I think I've forgotten everything else about this book. I read it when it first came out, and I'm just like, nothing is memorable to me. So I'm sorry for that one. That's definitely not a popular opinion. So, like, a generous 3 stars. Really, it was probably a 2. So let's see here what I rate it. Supposedly the best books of the last 3 years. Mexican Gothic, I think I gave a 4 star. Yep, 4 stars. Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, the most average, 3 stars, forgot everything about it. Home Before Dark, I think I gave 3.5. Yeah, 3.5. I rounded up to 4 on Goodreads. Hidden Pictures, 1 star. Sunday Motel, 2 stars. If It Bleeds, I think I gave you 5 stars. No, 4 stars. Probably a 4.5 if I'm being honest there. Only Good Indians, I think that was another 3.5. 3.75. Apparently, past me used to give 3.75s. I don't do that anymore. Last House on Needless Street, 3.5. Year of the Witching, 3 stars, probably a 2.5 star. So yeah, I probably want to just avoid the majority of the books also on this list because, again, to me, these were all the most average of average reads, or fine, slightly enjoyed. 1 or 2 were great. 1 or 2 I'm happy I read. And then there's a couple there that I'm just like, I despise this. So there's that. So Goodreads recommendations. I'm starting to say maybe I shouldn't trust you as much as I should. But that's all I got. I will talk to you later. Bye. So, spoilers for Hidden Pictures. This book is about a girl who just got out of like drug rehabilitation, and her entire personality is that she is Christian, very heavily religious, and is that credits that for saving her life, saving her from drug addictions. She's now a nanny to a couple and their small child. So they specifically hired her because she's fresh out of rehab and want to offer a second chance. Okay, whatever. They are very highly like into the sciences. They don't want any religion around their child, and they only want scientific accuracy. I think they're probably vegan, I would imagine, vegan or vegetarian, something about healthy food choices, don't want to give them sugar, stuff like that. And then at first, I'm like, okay, this is a little bit more on the not quite far right wing kind of political, more religious heavy tones, and that's fine. That's a perfectly fine book. But then it's just like, hey, the child is questioning their stuff about their body. So the mom's just like, well, I must teach them everything about it, and gets books that include like graphic sexual images. And it's just, you can feel the author's overall narrations like, this is what the left want. They want to tell your child about sex in this way. This is what sex education is. It is definitely not. And then it's so much on how she's religious. And then you have the stuff that was actually kind of interesting. She thinks she's being haunted by a ghost that lives in this like little nanny house shed converted to a guest house thing. And we're going so much into that story, only for it to amount to nothing. This character who's the ghost isn't even dead. She just ran off with her boyfriend, and people assumed she was murdered. So it's not her. So then we cut back to the family. It turns out that they were actually kidnappers, kidnapped a young girl, and then convinced them that, hey, you're actually a boy, so we can hide your identity and, continue to having kidnapped without anyone being suspicious. And then I can just feel like the narration going into the vibes of this is what the left is. They want to indoctrinate children and make them think that they're an opposite gender. And it's just so stupid. And I didn't even think of half this until the end after I'd already had whiplash from the fact that you have the characters rapid changing emotions. First, the parents are perfectly reasonable, then they're flying off the hinges for the smallest little things. You cannot solve the mystery until about like 2 seconds before the ending, when they actually give you a clue of what is happening. There's like less than no setup, so little setup. I think the closest thing to setup is the kid has a shirt that's either pink or purple or blue or red. Something. It's been a while since I read this book. Stripes on it, and that they're not very active. They want to sit and play with like a doll or something quietly. And then you have some stuff on him not having his medical records or something, because clearly he's been kidnapped. And I'm just like, come on. Between that and the blatant praise multiple times of J.K. Rowling's writing, like multiple times, like, I'm not as good as author as J.K. Rowling, but I'm going to give it my best shot. And I'm like, seriously, I don't, I really didn't, again, and I'm not going to knock off a star because political stuff in a book. I'm going to knock off a star for, I hated the plot, the characters were frustrating, and you could not solve the mystery of it, and there's so many red herrings, you could not do anything, you could not predict the ending until the end, and then it's just boring, or amount it to nothing. The parts that I liked, because I was giving this close to 4 stars for the ghost kind of aspect, only for there to not be the ghost you would expect, and the character, all the history we were learning about this supposed ghost, amounted to nothing, because they just kind of ran off. I hate it. I hated the main character. I hated her lies. You had to suspend all kinds of reality and disbelief, like, to make any of this work. I hated this book.